Hey, what's up, dudes and dudettes? Brad the Guitarologist here. In this video, we're going to take a look at this old tube tester that a viewer of the channel sent me quite a while back. Probably it's been 2, maybe even 3 years ago when he sent this thing. It is a Jackson Model 49 Customatic. And it looks like it could be a pretty good one, but when I went to test it out the other night, I noticed it had an issue. The switch, which on this one has a line control switch, so what it allows you to do, it allows you to adjust the primary voltages, okay? And when you adjust the primary voltages, you're supposed to adjust those so that the line for a particular style of tube ends up in the center. Otherwise, it will be off. Your readings will all be off. So you have to be able to adjust that incoming line voltage. I made a video. I may include that. I don't know. But I made a video taking this switch out. I tried and tried and tried to clean the thing. I sprayed and sprayed and sprayed contact cleaner, and I was, switching the thing. This was my first experience ever having contact cleaner. I wish I was filming, because I wasn't doing this one to film it. I was just doing it to have something to do at the moment, because I was, in between projects, and I was just kind of sitting around watching something on TV, and I was kind of doing this at the same time, and I just really wasn't in the mood to film that day for whatever reason. But I was spraying this switching it, and you can see what I'm probably starting to get at here. When you're switching a power switch and spraying it with, clearly flammable liquid. I actually started a fire. I caught this thing on fire. And originally also this thing, it's not in the greatest of shape in the back anyway. You can see it's got a lot of just kind of rust. We'll look at the housing that it comes in as well at some point here. And this thing was found in an old vintage refrigerator in an estate or something like that, the guy said. I'd have to look back at my notes to remember exactly what he said, but this thing definitely came from an old refrigerator. I guess they put it in there thinking that it would shield it from the weather, and I guess for the most part maybe it did, because this thing was outside or on a porch or something like that inside of that refrigerator. So I guess for the most part it did keep it okay, but there was some damage to the scroll, that shows you all of the different tubes. There was some damage already, and I tried my best to kind of just tape up the damage, and then it really sucked because I had it all really nicely taped. It was all flat. Everything was great. And then I was over here cleaning the switch and then caught the damn thing on fire and melted some of my tape. So I had to go back over that. Just a real stressful moment. Probably one of the more stressful moments I've had fixing something inside of my house. Because, this thing, it went up. It was like, it went poof. And I had to get up. You've never seen somebody get up so fast. I jumped up and I was like, holy shit. And I started blowing on it and, swiping it, the flames. And I was grabbing it by this end over here away from the flames, which were over there. And I took it outside, on my back porch, and I extinguished it pretty quick. But you know what I mean? It was definitely one of those, oh shit moments. For the most part, I think this thing is going to work just fine. We've got to get a switch in it. I did look around on eBay and find a switch. This is a new old stock Mallory switch. It takes a 12-position rotary switch, and I believe the switch was supposed to be non-shorting. I'd completely destroyed the other one. Trying to clean it, it had contacts in the switch. I think I already threw that switch away because it was garbage. It was just impossible to clean. But I think this one's going to be just fine. It's a longer shaft, so we can cut the shaft to whatever length we need. And this is a Mallory switch, so this should be good for another, 50 to 75 years or something probably. And it's just amazing to me that you can even still find new old stock parts like this, you know, on eBay. Thank God for eBay. I swear, man. eBay has probably saved more projects for me than really any other website out there. You know, I know some people don't like eBay as sellers because, you know, sometimes the policies aren't so friendly to sellers, at least small time sellers, you know, and return policies sometimes aren't that great. But at the same time, I mean, if you're a buyer though, and you're looking for parts, it's a really good place to go to get stuff. But anyway, so this thing should be a good tester, and even with the scroll as it is, you know, with that singed, it's at the very end of the scroll, so for the most part we don't have any problems until we start to get to the very end of the scroll, and then you can kind of see a little bit of singeing and stuff over there, and you know, it's collapsed a little bit, but that's only like on the last tube of the, you know, it's only like 2 tubes that are even affected by that, so it's not that big of a deal. But you know, still disappointing. I wish I had not have caught it on fire, but at the same time, it was completely unusable the way it was. So shit happens, and sometimes oh shit happens. But I just love the you know, I love the look of these old things, man. I think even if I did not use these old tube testers in my day-to-day, you know, kind of vocation. As a repairer of vintage items and old tube items, I would still love to have a collection of this kind of stuff just because of how cool it looks. I mean, look at the graphics and stuff on here and just all the switches, and it just really looks cool, doesn't it? Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get this switch in here. I'm going to try to make sure that I follow the video that I made to wire all this stuff up, and then we'll test this thing out and see if it works. But here you can see why I made a video of this. I mean, can you imagine having all these wires like this going down here to one switch and not having something to reference, you know, to figure out what went where? That would be quite the nightmare if I had to sit here and manually test everything while wiring it up. The thing is, there are so many different colors here, and some of the colors are quite similar. Like we have a light blue here, and then we have a darker blue. You know, so it's just, and then we have a white, and then we have like a gray, and then we have another white over here with a purple stripe. I could have drawn this out, but it's just easier to follow it's easier to make a video. And actually, before I even get started, I may just go ahead first things first and cut that shaft. You know, I just love this Black & Decker Wizard rotary tool that I got at a Goodwill. It was like, I think it was like $8 or something. But it had the case, and it had a bunch of, it didn't have a whole lot, but it did have quite a few of the little attachments and everything. The problem was the batteries were dead. Obviously, as this is one of their older style tubes of VersaPack. Well, not real old, but, you know, I think they're maybe 10 years old or something. But they don't make them anymore. As is usually the case, you can find people online that remake these. And I think I got a pair of these batteries for it for, I don't know, it was like $12 maybe, something like that, for a pair of the batteries. And a charger as well. They came with a charger, but this thing already had the charger and all of that. But I just like the fact that it's cordless. My nicer one is corded. My actual Dremel. I do have a Dremel, but it's nicer to be able to just grab, not have to plug it in, and, you know, fumble around with the cord and stuff. And I think I like this style of cutoff wheel a little bit better than the one I usually use. I usually use a different style cutoff wheel. This one, I've got a whole bunch of these cutoff wheels, but I think I might like this one a little bit better. It seems to be like it's a little bit more durable, and it's a little thicker, so it's less. I think it's less likely to shatter like these are. These kind of can sometimes shatter on you and throw stuff flying. So I don't really like that. Okay, so there's our pot. Let's go ahead and get it wired in here. One thing that is a big pet peeve for me, I cannot do is sit here and try to work after I've cut something up on the bench. I can't do it. There's just like all this little metal dust and everything. I've got to get rid of this before I can do anything else. It's a bit of an OCD thing, but it's also kind of a practical thing. I just don't want to spread this crap all around my room and have heavy metals, you know, anywhere and everywhere. This metal dust, I mean, it'll get all over everything, and getting your socks and getting your food and getting your hair, and you know what I mean? You just don't, I like to clean this stuff up as soon as I create it. Yeah, so the reason for this video, I got to a stopping point on a Gibson amp that I'm working on. It is a really cool amp. It is a Titan from the 60s. It's pretty much, I think it's the biggest, most powerful amp they were making at the time, and I had to order some parts, so we're in a stopping point on that thing. So I did decide to go ahead and make a video of this thing just because I got the part in. I was going to be working on it anyway, so why not throw up a video? YouTube just got back to the point also where they're finally starting to promote my videos a little bit again, and they're actually putting my videos in front of more eyeballs, and as a consequence I'm starting to grow again, whereas for the last year to 18 months I have not grown hardly at all. I mean, it's just been really stagnant as far as the sub count. Not that I pay too much attention to that sort of thing. I really, you know, it is what it is, but it's just, I know when they have turned off the spigot and I know when they have opened the spigot. It's very obvious. And for the last, like I said, year and a half or so, they have really clamped down on that spigot, and haven't allowed me to really grow as a channel at all. I don't know what changed, but you can just tell, man, sometimes the YouTube will just flip a switch and suddenly you're it, you know? Suddenly, like, all your videos are getting decent play and all this stuff, and some of your old videos start getting viewed again, you know, and you start getting new subs from old videos even again, and it's just, you could tell when that sort of thing has happened. Something like it, I mean, seriously, if it's not a manual switch somewhere within the halls of Google or YouTube, I will be extremely surprised. I know everybody says it's algorithmic based, but I just don't know what algorithm would say one day you're absolutely dog shit, and then the next day you haven't changed very much, but now suddenly we're just going to start showing all your stuff. Anyway, it's just funny that that's happening. So in the interest of continuing that, hopefully going on, we'll go ahead and put up some more videos, maybe of some things that normally I would not video, just so we can have some content going up on the channel. That did not take nearly as long as I feared it might. I mean, it's only 12 connections. How long is it gonna take? It just, I don't know. I guess I was just kind of regretting it because I was gonna have to watch the video back and compare and, you know, all that stuff. But actually, the video was very clear and it didn't take that long at all. So, all right, man. I think we're ready to give this thing a try. We'll just tuck those wires back under there. Let's go ahead and, I guess, fire it back up, man. See how much damage was done by the fire. I'll just leave it upright like this, I think, for now. Let's see. Turn on my stuff. I need to get some knob on here so I can switch it. I want to put a chicken head style knob, I think, on that. Some of these have stripped out. Some of these are stripped out. I need to figure out which one is off, the off position. We'll figure that out in a minute. That won't work. Hey, it looks the part too. Alright. It came with this knob on it, but this knob doesn't even have a line or an indicator on it, so I'll save that for something else. I'll use this on here. Alright, let's go ahead and dial her up on the Variac. I don't want to shock it to life, but I just want to make sure Is that actually the off position? That might actually be the off position. There we go. See the meter move a little bit. That actually is the off position. What are the odds of that? Of the 12 of the 12 possibilities, it actually started off in the correct. I put it right on the correct position. That would never happen again. I guarantee you. Yeah, let's go ahead and I'll dial it on up, I guess. Let's put 120. Let's put 120 at it right there and see what happens. Okay, drawing 3.9 watts of power right there. Well, one thing that is consistent, and you would expect, is that when I switch this, okay, you see the current up there in amps in the top left right here. Watch this. Okay, so I'm going to start in the off position. Okay, there's the off position. We're drawing no current at all. And now I'm going to go to the 120. So this is the highest. And you can see we're drawing 0.08 amps of current. And as I continue to switch this, I think the highest position has a couple of different positions are 120. But you see the amperage start to go up as I'm decreasing the voltage on the primary. You'll see that amperage continue to increase ever so slightly as I click upward, which is what you would expect. So that looks right. I think now what I want to do is get a tube on here, just something that we can test. Just see what I've got handy that I can grab. Here's a 12AT7. Let's try a 12AT7. And first thing I want to do is straighten the pins, because the pins are all over the place. $12AT7. Where are you, 12AT7? I don't even see any 12-volt tubes. Where are they? There's 50-volt tubes, 35-volt. You can see the tube types here. I expect they're going to come up on this window because the rest of these are filled with 6-volt all the way down to the bottom. This thing is a little bit difficult to scroll still, so I want to do something about that. This thing not being in its case, I want to be real careful about where I touch it too. I don't want to reach around and grab onto something and regret it. Now we're getting into some 7-volt tubes over here too. Let's see, hang on. Let me change the orientation of this because I'm afraid it's going to fall down on me. God, this thing really is tight on here. I got to find something to pry. I got to pry this a little bit so this wheel stops rubbing, because it's rubbing. Good Lord, why is it so difficult? Turn the power off to this while I find it. Should make more sense, wouldn't it? Why is this thing so difficult? It's bunching up. So I'm trying to pry this wheel outward just a little bit because the wheel right here is rubbing, but The scroll is... Oh, shit. There it went. The scroll just popped. Fuck. Fuck. Why? Why me? Man, come on. Yeah, I'll show you what happened. The scroll just split in half. You see that right here and right here? I gotta tape those back together, and I gotta find out why it's being so difficult. I oiled all these gears and everything before, and now they're, well, I don't know if you can see it or not. There's gears in there. I oiled all those up, but apparently it wasn't enough. I have to tape this back up. Okay, I think the thing to do to fix that is going to be I'm going to have to take the whole scroll off, the whole thing, and maybe even unwind it slightly because it's too tight. These gears make it so the whole thing scrolls at the same time. But, you know, the problem is if it starts to get bunched up on one of the ends or something, or if it's bigger on one side than it is on the other side, you know, you might end up with problems. Alright, we've got a lot of work to do on this thing. It's that this paper is really, really fragile. I think I might need somewhere with more space. There's not enough space up here on this desk to do this. See, we need to reference this right here. So we got the tube type, and then we got the section A, B, C, D, and E. So, all right, we can do it. All right, we got 6.3 volt filament. B is 9. C is what? Nothing. D is 12 or 1 and 2. D is 1 and 2. And then 6 and 7 on the next one. And then we got 3 and 5. Wait. How exactly does that line up? Let's see. E is 5. 1, 2, and then 3 is D. D is... Wait a minute. D is 3. Wait a minute. No? How's that... C has got to be 1, 2, and then D is 3, and then E is 5. Let's try it. All right, we've got filament glow on the tube. I don't know if you can see it. There's filament glow on the tube. The problem is I can't get, no matter where I put this switch, I cannot get this in the center like it's supposed to be. And I wonder if am I doing something wrong here? What am I doing?
What am I doing here?
Could also be that this is bad. Certainly could be the case. I mean, we've got filament lighting up, but we don't have anything else really going. I mean, it does move when you hit the test button, but that's about all I could say for it. I mean, I guess it could also be that tube is just bad, but I don't think that's the case. It should not be like that. We do have some calibration pots back here. I could try turning those maybe to get those more in line with what we expect to see. we do have a lot of dirt in some of these switches over here. I did spray those switches already. I've sprayed the hell out of them. You know, I could put my meter across these points here to see what kind of voltages we're getting at this point on the meter, but I wouldn't even know what to expect right there. We do have a lot of rust on the backs of these pots, but I just don't think that I still don't think that that's the problem. I think if anything's the problem, it's probably that right there. With as bad as that looks, I mean, that is, you know what I mean? But where are you going to find that? Nowhere. But for now, let's go ahead and we'll fire it back up again, and I'll see if I can tweak on those and get this thing to do what we expect to see. This is going to be kind of hard to film, I'm sure. All right, we've got it on. Don't try this at home, kids. I'm just holding this right now, which you know normally you probably don't want to do. But I'm tweaking on this just to see if I can change the range on it. That one's doing jack. It's doing nothing at all. I suspect that pot right there is bad. You know what? There's a good way of testing that. That pot's doing nothing. I think maybe even both of those pots are bad. You can see, like I said, how bad they look. Well, that's going from virtually 0 ohms up to about 40 ohms. So it is changing. And over here on this one goes from about 0 up to 1.3K. You know, so probably about 1.5K on that side. But it kind of makes me wonder if this one is supposed to be that low. 40 ohms. Probably. Man, it just sounds ratty. You know what I mean? I'm curious what the voltages are like right there at that point. Let me, on this side, we're getting nothing. Really. Nothing. The voltage across there. That's like next to nothing too. But I'm measuring DC. Let's measure AC. 0.7 volts AC. Surely not. There's 1.8. Yeah, it's just, I don't know, man. Let's measure across this pot over here. Just the pot. Almost nothing. Okay. Let's check it across these two wires when we hit the test button. Okay, you can see it. It does change. There's hitting the test button. So something is changing, but it's just not, something's not working right. Without a schematic, you know, that has some written voltages on it that I would, you know, that I can check for and I would expect to see, I'm not sure there's much I can do about this thing. I mean, I guess I could test the primary and secondary of the transformer. But it's real hard to see where everything... I know the 6.3 filament seems to be working fine. And that's that switch over yonder underneath the transformer. There's a switch. That's the filament switch. And that one seems to be working okay. This other little rheostat over here on the other side, though, that will be taking the secondary voltage and applying that as a plate voltage to the tube for testing purposes. And it's probably not like a full voltage, but it's, you know, like a high voltage, but it's enough for testing. I wonder what's there. What's going on at that point? Driver right there to right there. See, I mean, that'll show us a voltage drop. But again, I don't know what's supposed to be there. I can turn that all the way. And no significant, really, change in voltage drop is taking place. Not a big one anyway. So I don't know, man. I don't know. This one might be a loss. This one may be a loss, and I suspect it's that transformer right there. I mean, why wouldn't it be that transformer? Look at it. Some of the functions seem to be working fine. You know, again, it is getting filament voltage. The filaments are on. Tube is glowing. But it's not testing worth a darn. And if it is testing, certainly the meter is not measuring it properly or not displaying it properly. That could also be what's going on. I think it's probably time now to unwire this and try to disassemble it and see if there's something we can do maybe to repair just the meter. Okay. Ooh. Well, it's a bit of an issue. Part of this is broken. Maybe I can, yeah, I might be able to pry this back off. It's cracked right there, and that screw is loose. Yeah, I can get in it. Hang on. I can get in it, but I just don't know how much good it's going to do. Alright, let's try to get in this thing, just for giggles. It's not working anyway. And I do suspect that this is the issue, so I'll have to see if we can carefully pry this. Said carefully. Okay. This is another one of those do as I say, not as I do kind of moments. You really should never do this to a meter. It's, you know, unless there's something seriously wrong with it. And I suspect, like I said, this is the problem. And even if it's not this, it's going to be that transformer right there. And that still means end of life for this unit. You know, either one of these, this or that goes bad. There's no replacing that. It's basically parts at that point. Here's the adjustment screw for the meter right here, and it just adjusts it in a very limited range, and it does it with a little nipple, little plastic nipple on that. You see that? That little plastic nipple goes down into this part and pushes this, you know, a little bit this way or a little bit that way, basically. I don't think that's it at all. What I think is the problem is there's a little magnet in here. I think the magnet might be dead. There's no magnetism on it. Oh, there's a little bit right there. Yeah, I guess there is. Yeah, there's some magnetism. Well, I guess there's one way of finding out. We'll stick about 3 volts on these terminals. See what that does for it. Ooh, see that? That's 3 volts. We're going to lower that way down. Let's go back to about the range we were looking at on there originally. In there. Let's go way down. Let's go down to about let's go down to 1 volt. That's still pegging the meter at 1 volt. Alright, well, so the meter seems to be working. To some extent, anyway. Let's lower that down by about half. Let's go about 0.4 volts. Okay. It's much more subtle. Let's go with, okay, 0.3 volts. Okay, when I clip the gator clip completely on there and it's getting good connection, it goes all the way up and pegs. Otherwise it jumps around quite a bit, and that's kind of displaying the same symptom that it was displaying earlier. I wonder if it's these connections right here that aren't just really corroded. I mean, there's some corrosion there. You see right there, the little bit of corrosion right there. I mean, the bolt should still be getting connection, but the actual wires are wired onto a piece of brass that's sticking up, that's around that bolt. And I just wonder if maybe taking this thing apart and cleaning the bolts with a wire brush, I don't know. Maybe that would fix it, maybe not. But you see what I mean? Like if I'm just kind of touching the outside here, it sort of jumps around and seems to get very intermittent connection. All right, so I think we figured out what the problem is. So I fired this thing up out here on the desk. Well, let me show you here. I've got some gator clips running from the points of contact over here to the back of the meter. See right there? Okay. See if I can reach that test button right there. Alright, well that's saying bad, but I don't know where the switches are at the moment. I also kind of have to wonder if I didn't screw something up here while screwing around with it. Uh-oh. Is that switch stuck? The switch seemed to be kind of stuck. Well, it's saying bad for this too. That switch is bad too. I gotta clean that switch for sure. It's getting stuck. Let me we're making some progress here at the very least. So yeah, let me clean that switch over there, and also I'm gonna clean these contacts right here. Those contacts certainly are dirty, and that's and also these little on the back here where they hook up, those hookups are also dirty. I think that was the source of the problem with the meter, but now I want to See if we've got the right settings for this 12AT, and we'll try it again. All right, so it looks like I had one of these wrong. If I'm testing the second triode, I have to have, let me go over this and make sure. 12AT, where are you? Okay, 6.3 volts. That's correct. 9 on B. B is 9. C is supposed to be what? C is supposed to be 6 and 7 on that, and then 8 is D. Okay. And then 5 for the plate. So let's kick it on and see what happens. Also, I went ahead and I fixed that switch too. I lubricated it, and it works really nicely now. So we'll see where that gets us. Whoop. Shit. It's not going to get us anywhere if it falls and destroys itself. Alright, it's still saying bad, but I wonder... I mean, it's saying bad as in dead. Like, really dead. Okay, well, let's try the other one. 1 and 2. This one's 6 and 7. Right, 1 and 2, and then 3 on this. Right. Yeah, that's saying bad too. I wonder though if I maybe don't have the Well, now that's jumping way up there. Why is that? Okay, I'm back this morning. It's a new day, and taking another look at this little tube tester. I started tracing things out. I did find a schematic online. Here's where the voltage comes in. You have a on-off switch right here. Here are the various windings. So we've got 102.5 volts, 105, 107.5, 110, 112.5, 15, yada yada. You get the picture. So you got all these different windings that this switch switches onto all the way up, and then there's an off position. So you got 12 different positions for that. That's going to, of course, dictate how much voltage comes out the other side. We have lots of different voltages here on this switch. This is a second switch. This is the one that's underneath the transformer. So we have obviously an off position. Then we have all these different voltages. 1.4, 2 volts, 2.5, 3 volts, 4.25, 6.3, all the way up to 110 volts you can put on the filaments of some tubes. For like a one tube wonder kind of a thing. Then you've got some lines coming around that are feeding from the primary that come direct over to this circuit over here. So when you're in certain positions, it looks like yeah, it's kind of hard to see what exactly is going on there, but it's weird. You've got a couple of positions. You've got lines that come off and come over here to like the neon light, for instance, and then to this little IN51 diode right here, which is a reverse biasing diode. That feeds this little plate switch. Anyway, I went through all this stuff and I tested each one of these little resistors. These resistors were spot on. None of these resistors were off. The little rheostat, this is a 300 ohm little rheostat that's in the thing. Those can sometimes mess up on you, and it's a pretty common thing on these for those to mess up. Inside of a rheostat, you've got these little small wires that go all the way around. There's actually two different rows of these wires. There's one up here on top, and then down inside, I don't know if you're gonna be able to see it, but down inside there's another second row of wire that's wrapped down in there. Yeah, you can kind of see it down there. So there's two different ones, and then there's, when you turn it, you've got these little feet that feel up against the edge and move around and change the overall resistance. And then there's one on the bottom there as well, you can kind of see. Sometimes these are a problem because they will break, and then you'll kind of lose the workability of the pot, or the rheostat, whatever you want to call it. This one I've opened up. I had to take the back off of it. Here's the back. And when I first opened it up, I thought, oh, we might be onto something here, and I'll show you why. Because on the other side, right here, we had a lot of rust and stuff, and I thought maybe the rust had gotten down in there. And look how rusty this part is. That's part of the front of the rheostat, but inside it looks squeaky clean. I'm going to go ahead and clean inside of here anyway. While we're at it, I'll put a little bit of this lubricant. I'll spray some of that, and that should help. That should help maintain connectivity and also keep it from going bad in the future. But that's not the problem. I think I found the problem though. Possibly, we'll see. I was looking at all of these connections, looking at the switch, because that's really the only other thing in here that could be bad. And there, look at what I found right there. You see it? Right there. I don't know if that's enough to not give it connection, but it's certainly a bad solder joint. And I don't know if you can really see down inside of there like I can. Yeah, there's a lot of dust inside of there. I don't think that that's causing a problem, because the dust mainly is on the shafts of these switches. See the switch right there? So the dust is mainly on the shafts of those switches. I don't think it's causing the problem. But each one of these switches, if you'll see, it's got these tabs, kind of like a Fender 5-way selector switch is probably what you'll be familiar with that these are like. Yeah, this has a lot. See all these contacts up here? All of those have to be pinched in such a way that they'll close down on the little thing, the tab that swings in between them to make the connections. I looked at all of those and they all look okay. That doesn't mean they are all okay. I might try several different tubes in this, and I might try spraying all of those again to see if that's a problem. But first and foremost, I'm going to solder that, and we'll see if that was the problem. Another interesting thing that I noticed when I was messing with this thing originally is that it's got these little doors. It's got this one door over here where all of the sockets are for the tubes, and it looks like the doors easily come out, so you can change out, you know, what type of sockets that you have. And it looks like maybe they had other expansion sets that they would sell with this thing. See right here, this door right here comes out in the same way, but there's nothing there. And last night when I was looking this model up, I noticed this picture right here, and this is the same model, and it has a little expansion thing over here, and this one is for a filament current tester. So I thought that was interesting that you could get little expansion boards to expand the functionality of your tube tester. Yeah, I know the tip of this soldering iron is completely had it. I've got to change it out. Keep telling myself to do that before I warm it up, but every time I forget. Burn off some of this ancient flux from the 1950s. I think this thing is from They came out with this model, I believe, from what I'm seeing, in around 1954, something like that. Could be off on that date, but I think that's the dates that I was seeing, somewhere around in there, which is earlier than I thought at first. Just simply because it did not have some of the earlier tube types, like the 4-pin tube type and stuff like that. You know, I was real close last night to just giving up on this thing. It's not that expensive of an item, but that's kind of not the point. The point is, it's been around since the 1950s, and I didn't want to be the guy who gave up on it, you know, and threw it away or parted it out or whatever. You know what I mean? When you see something that's kind of this old and survived this long, you hate to be the guy who has to EOL it, but sometimes it just happens, and it's just not economical to screw with some of the stuff, you know. But we'll try our best here. I want to exhaust every possibility before we do that. Just the way I am, I guess. Okay, so I think that's every single connection on this switch has been touched up. Now, obviously, this is not the socket that matters when testing a 12AX7, but we're just hitting them all while we're in here. Now, I know reflowing solder like this is not ideal. You know, you'd want to suck off all the old solder and start with brand new, but this is better than doing nothing. This thing isn't going into outer space and carrying passengers, you know what I mean? This is the tube tester. Okay, so I've done most of those. I think we'll go ahead and clean all the contacts for that meter and get that meter reinstalled. Now you can see the difference between one that has been cleaned and the one that has not been cleaned. This, you know, it's got all this chalky kind of oxidation here, and that's right where you want the connection. So it's definitely a good idea to clean this. I'm going to spray this afterwards too. I'll probably put some electronics lubricant on it, and maybe that will stay in there and keep that nice and shiny and contactful for a long time. Alright, that I think is going to be much better. Okay, that meter is all reassembled and looking pretty good. I think now we're going to get much better connection on that. Let's go ahead and put a tube back in and see what happens now that we have resoldered all these connections over here on this switch. I'll go ahead and spray the switch as well again for good measure. Okay, got everything set. Let's try to test the tube again. Plugged in, it's on. Boom. All right. All right, we've got light on the tube. It's just diving right down to bad, and I don't think that this tube is bad, so I don't know what's up with that. See, what surprises me is that the meter doesn't read anything at all, and it doesn't change even when I adjust the rheostat. There's just nothing there. I decided to try another tube. So I've got a 6L6 in here now. Now everything that I've done up until now has only improved this mechanism. You know, reflowing all the solder and stuff. It's just me being an idiot, not understanding exactly how to work this thing. So here's the instructions that was inside. The one thing I was messing up on is on cathode shorts. So it says here you can test for the cathode shorts, but you have to move that lever back to the normal position before hitting the test. So what I had this stuff set wrong. Also, because I had this thing out, it wasn't lining up properly, and I think I was mistaking C for D on some of these settings. So let's go back to the AT. I'm curious now with this new procedure if I can now test that same AT. The reason I say that is now I can test this beautiful black plate RCA tube, and it's testing magnificently. It's testing 120% of this is relative percent of normal tubes, 120%. So that is well good. Very nice tube. So I'm going to go back to, let's go back to this AT, and we'll reset everything. Okay, 6.3, which we have 9 is on the filament. So the things you set first are the B and C positions, and then you insert the tube. For the C position on 12AT7, we have nothing. So that's where I was screwing up before. So now we can insert the tube. We should get filament glow. And we do have filament glow. D is, all right, for one of the triodes, it's 1 and 2. And we move those one at a time. And we look for shorts indicator, according to this. Okay, so we're good there. So there's our D. Now we want to test for cathode shorts. And the cathode shorts indicator is 3. So we want to test for cathode shorts. No indicator light on cathode shorts, so we're good there. We put this one back where it belongs for that cathode, and then we can test. And we're still getting nothing on that. It's kind of disappointing. I was expecting that to work properly. Alright, well that tube is simply testing bad on that side. Let's replace these. We'll do 6, 7 now. 8, no shorts there. Well, that tube just seems to be testing bad. I'm surprised, honestly. Surprised that it's getting nothing at all. And with no shorts. Okay, let's throw a new JJ, known good tube, up on the tester. And we'll see if that gets us anywhere. Okay, that's working. So that tube was dead, wasn't it? Wait a minute, that's a 12AX, so we got to actually adjust the values. Hang on. 1, 2, 3. No, values are the same. 3, oh, 9. 9 instead of 5. So we got to go up to here and then test. So we're good on this one. So that tube is simply bad. So the tester's fine. My assumption was that this tube was good, and it's not. It's a bad tube. Okay, now let's test the other section. No shorts. We also test this for shorts. Nope, no shorts. Put that one back. That's the cathode shorts test. And then we press here to test, and we've got a good tube. This tester is perfect. It's working perfectly. So now we need to fix the scroll, because the scroll is in an abysmal state. It's in several pieces now. It just keeps falling apart on me. I'm going to have to get it on a big flat surface and tape it all up. Okay, so I've got this scroll unfurled out here on my kitchen floor, and this thing needed a lot of attention. It was really destroyed down here in this area. I think water had gotten to it at some point in its life prior to me setting it on fire, so it's seen fire and it's seen rain. It's like James Taylor of scrolls. Or like, you know, Mr. Miyagi's scrolls in Karate Kid 2, and the, you know, the assholes come in and like poke. I don't even know what I'm talking about. I had to take this thing entirely off of here to fix it, so we're gonna basically just tape this back onto this scroll and then scroll it up, and then when we reach the end we'll tape it onto this one, and that should be that. Alright guys, so I got this thing back in its original case. Original case was in pretty good shape on the outside. It was missing the handle. I went ahead and made this handle for it. It's just basically a folded piece of leather that I have put some rivets through on the end so they won't pull back through, but this thing is kind of folded over on itself 3 times and should be a pretty strong piece of leather, I hope. That's actually made from, once again, a piece of leather couch that I had that we threw away, but before we threw it away I harvested all of the leather off of it. So I've got a whole shit ton of leather that I can use on other projects like this, and it's coming pretty handy. I highly recommend, if you have like a leather piece of furniture that you're going to just toss out, definitely take the leather off that's usable before you get rid of it, because you can always use it in projects like this. I did go ahead also and print up the scroll. I got it back in here, but I also went ahead and scanned all the pages. If I had foresight, I probably would have scanned it in this orientation. It would have been easier to do, but it's that you could still look up the numbers that you need. Actually it's easier to look it up like this than it is to try to scroll through this anyway, so I probably won't ever use the scroll, but at least it's in there now, and it does kind of work. I mean, it still gets kind of hard toward the top of the range for some reason. I think it's the little gears that are binding up in there, so it's not really smooth, but it does work. I mean, if you want to find a tube, you can. You just gotta, up here toward the top of the range, you really gotta kind of crank on it sometimes. But there's all your stuff, 12AX7s and whatnot. This thing turned out okay. I did test some 35-volt tubes, like 35Z5s, and some 50-volt tubes a little bit later on, and I was kind of having some trouble with those. I'm not sure if all the tubes that I had in this little stash were bad. They might have had just open filaments. That's possible. But it could also be that one of the windings, one or more of the windings, is not good on this, or taps. I just don't know. It would seem like, well, I don't know. I guess if you had an open piece of a winding higher up, it would only affect anything higher than a certain number, probably. It's higher than a certain tap. But I at least know that this will test all 6.3 volt filaments, which is going to cover 90% of all the stuff that I do, and the 5 volts. So that's okay. Went ahead and taped the instructions back in here, so hopefully no one else makes the same mistake that I did and not being able to test tubes properly with this thing. But anyway, that'll do it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it's been kind of a long one for a tube tester, but yeah, I enjoyed making it. Didn't intend to spend this much time on it. It was supposed to be like, you know, an evening of just putting the switch back on, but it really turned into a couple days worth of work. So, but I'm waiting on, like I said, parts on another project anyway, so that'll do it for this one. Hit subscribe below if you haven't already, and for now, we will see y'all later.